Donald Trump just made a fatal error that will instantly tank the criminal case that he cares about most. You see, when Donald Trump was in the Oval Office and he was asked by Caitlin Collins of CNN if he really feared for his life because of that James Comey social media post from over a year ago with the seashells 8647, such that Comey has been charged with threatening the life of Donald Trump. Were you really afraid, Donald Trump, for your life? Donald Trump's response to Caitlin Collins was, probably, I don't know. Probably, I don't know. By him saying, probably, I don't know, regardless of how ridiculous and frivolous this case is for so many other grounds, including on the First Amendment free speech grounds, but him saying, probably, I don't know, automatic dismissal right there. Or now Donald Trump's going to have to testify. He's made himself clearly a witness with exculpatory evidence such that he now would need to take the witness stand, because probably I don't know is not beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the standard that the prosecutors would need if they wanted to get a conviction of Comey to convince a federal jury on a 12-0 basis, right? It has to be unanimous that beyond a reasonable doubt, James Comey threatened Donald Trump and actually had the likelihood and the intent that caused Donald Trump this imminent fear of death or imminent fear for his life. And Trump's response, probably, I don't know. If Donald Trump's response is probably, I don't know, then what would somebody else think? And of course, we know it's much more basic than that. 86 refers to the restaurant term of to get rid of, to axe somebody in a restaurant or in a bar. You 86 somebody from the restaurant. And then Donald Trump, I'll show you in the answer, he was like, that's what the mob says. Have you ever watched a mob movie? That's the language of what mafia people say. Again, by Donald Trump saying that that's the language of the mob and the mafia to kill people. Again, that's objectively false. Right? There's no mobster or mafia people that have used the term that we know of publicly that have used the term 8647. And how else do we know that? Well, Ellie Honig, who was a former federal prosecutor known for prosecuting lots of the big organized crime families in New York and the surrounding tri-state region there. He spent all of the formative years of his career as a top federal prosecutor before leaving and becoming, an analyst, listening to the audio of mobsters speak to each other. I've never heard of it in movies. I've never heard of it in real mob talk. What in the world is going on in Donald Trump's delusional and deranged mind? So Donald Trump has now injected himself, as he should. I mean, as he should, he should take the witness stand. We know he's too pathetic and he's not going to. And this should result in an automatic dismissal. Now, obviously, the case should be dismissed on the grounds that freedom of speech, on the grounds that there's no real basis in law. Objectively, no one would interpret this as a threat. But let me just show you what Donald Trump said so you can hear it for yourself. And then I'm going to show you what a prospective juror would be saying. But here's what Donald Trump said. Let's play it.
But do you really think your life was in danger?
Probably. I don't know.
Now I want to share with you what a prospective juror would believe. And I'm not just going to take any prospective juror. I'm going to take for you the most biased pro-Trump juror imaginable. MAGA Republican Congress member Troy Nehls. This is a dude who literally wears Donald Trump ties around Capitol Hill. You don't get much more of a Trump sycophantic weirdo bootlicker, strange dude than Troy Nehls, who's in love with Donald Trump. Even Nehls says, yeah, I don't know, maybe James Comey shouldn't have said that. I don't like James Comey, he goes, but I'm not really sure it's a crime. I guess if you can convince a jury, maybe, but I'm not sure if it's a crime. And by the way, our Scott McFarlane at the MeidasTouch Network DC Bureau, he was there to capture Troy Nehls saying it. It's why it's so important that we at the MeidasTouch Network have that presence on Capitol Hill. That's why I want you to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you can. So I'm going to show you the most biased stealth juror imaginable who would want to get on this case to help Trump. Obviously, Troy Nels isn't going to be on the jury. But my point is, if this guy thinks there's no case, what do you think any reasonable jury is going to do? Here, play this clip.
And you can indict anybody for anything.
Well, what's your opinion? Do you think that this was really a threatening message?
I think it's a stretch. I think it's well, is it a threatening message? I mean, what's that? That's not a damn zip code. What do you think that means?
Do you think it was worth? Do you think that they should have indicted him?
I'm saying if somebody looks at that, and James Comey put that out there, that's 86, right? 47. So we know what it means. But is it criminal? Is it truly a threat? We're encouraging people. But I tell you what, though, how many times has a president ever? I mean, this is his third time they've gone after President Trump.
Doesn't seem criminal to you, sir?
The rhetoric has to stop. Is it criminal? I don't. If you can get a jury to convict him.
You're a
if
former
you can get a jury to convict him, everybody, you know what? Everybody went after Donald Trump and convicted him for lesser. I mean, they had nothing. I don't even think they had probable cause to do it. But you can't find an honest jury in New York. You can't find one here or a judge. So I just think, listen, it's a stretch. It's a stretch.
And now I want to show you what former mob prosecutor Ellie Honing, what he said about Donald Trump arguing that 8647 was a mob term. And also when Donald Trump said, probably, I don't know, killed the case right there. Case over. Here, play this clip.
You're someone who's prosecuted over what? 100 mob family members? Does 86 mean murder in mob parlance? Tell us.
Well, Caitlin, there was a point in my life where I spent the better part of my waking hours either talking face to face with real world mobsters or listening to them talk to each other over wiretaps or body wires or bugs. I dealt with all five families: Gambino, Genovese, Bonanno, Lucchese, Colombo. I dealt with bosses, underbosses, consigliaries, capos, soldiers, associates, all the way down the line. Never, ever, not once did I hear any real world gangster use the term 86 to refer to a murder or anything. And God knows these guys had colorful lingo, but never that phrase 86. I don't know where the president getting this from. He said from some movie. They don't use that term in Godfather or Sopranos or Goodfellas, maybe some way old-timey movie, but that's not reality. The other piece of the interview you did, Caitlin, with the president in the Oval Office that I found really interesting, when you asked that follow-up, did you truly believe your life was in danger? The first thing he said was, probably, I don't know. And then he sort of eventually said, well, I guess so, yeah. Probably, I don't know, right there, that's an acquittal because prosecutors have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the victim believed that his life was in jeopardy. And if the jury comes back at probably, I don't know, that's a not guilty right there. I thought that was a really important moment.
So you think that could be used if this makes it to trial?
You know, it's funny. Jim Jordan was then trying to struggle to justify the criminal case against Comey. And even on state regime media, which calls itself Fox, they were questioning Jim Jordan, right? Again, Troy Nels, Jim Jordan. I mean, these are guys who probably, well, I have a lot of things I could say. I'm not going to go there. Okay. Jim Jordan, Troy Nels, they're bootlickers. We'll just leave it at that. And Jim Jordan was asked, well, what do you think about the charges? And Jim Jordan's like, look, the Steele dossier, he leaked classified information about Donald Trump, Russia. And even the Fox host is like, okay, Jim, y'all didn't charge James Comey with those things. Okay, you didn't do a Russia. By the way, Russia. Donald Trump was speaking with Putin yesterday for 90 freaking minutes. And then Trump finished speaking with Putin and started talking about Ukraine having its Navy ships at the bottom of the ocean. He confused Ukraine with Iran. Trump was speaking with Putin yesterday. So Russia. But set that aside. Even Fox was saying to Jim Jordan, all of the things you're mentioning have nothing to do with the indictment. You indicted Jim Jordan, you indicted James Comey, you MAGAs, collectively weaponizing the DOJ for seashells, for posting a photo of seashells from a North Carolina beach a year ago. Play this clip of Jim Jordan.
Is this case stronger than the one 12 months ago?
Well, it's a crime to threaten the president. 18 U.S.C. Section 871. So you can't do that. And he obviously did. Now, he tries to tell us that no. He was just strolling on the beach one morning with drinking his coffee, and then the good Lord had washed up on shore shells in the formation of 8647, and he took a picture of it. Okay, that's his story. I don't think anyone buys that. but you can't threaten the president. And I think it's important to remember, this is Jim Comey who started it all. This 10-year attack on the president of the United States, on President Trump, started with Comey and remember, he took the dossier that he knew was garbage. He's the guy who took it to the secret court to get the warrant to go spy on President Trump's campaign. He's the guy who leaked the memos. He's the guy who leaked classified information through his buddy, Daniel Richmond, to the press. So this is that guy, and now he tells us, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, we all know what this means.
Charged. Everything you listed, he's not being charged in this case.
I understand that.
We'll see what it says this afternoon. So, like the other side's going to say, look, the president's just going after his enemies, and so are Republicans. What do you think about that charge?
No, I think Todd Blanche is doing good work. It shouldn't be lost on anyone that the very week that the Southern Poverty Law Center gets indicted is also the week that there was a third assassination attempt on the President of the United States. And the Southern Poverty Law Center has been out there for 8 years paying $3 million to foment hate and divide the country. I think that's the big takeaway from last week. And so I say God bless Todd Blanche and the work he and the Justice Department are doing.
And then the acting AG, Todd Blanche, was asked, so, Mr. Blanche, are y'all going to start prosecuting everybody who does seashell pictures? Are y'all going to, is the DOJ and FBI the seashell police now? Did Sally sell seashells by the seashore? And are you going to arrest Sally? Are you going after Seashell Sarah? I mean, the guy said these are aren't these the snowflakiest people in the world? I can't believe this. So are you going to prosecute everybody who does 8647 now? Is that like, with all the things going on right now in the world, y'all focused on 8647 posts? You're going to prosecute everybody? Watch what Todd Blanche says. Here, play this clip.
Look, every case is different. Every threats case is different. And so that means that there can, what does that mean? That means that the nature of the threat, the person who makes this threat, and then the investigation around the threat. And so you cannot, it would be ill-advised for anybody to compare a particular statement to another statement that appears similar when there's been a thorough investigation. Nobody in this room has any idea what happened during a grand jury investigation between May 15th and yesterday. And so that's reflective of the work that the FBI, the Secret Service, U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of North Carolina did. And so you know that every time that's posted, that number is posted, you know that every time there is a threat against the president, it doesn't necessarily lead to an indictment. It depends. It depends on the investigation. It depends on all kinds of factors. And so it's not, people should be very wary of threatening the life of President Trump, because that is a crime.
I mean, so pathetic. But by the way, Blanche, how confident are you that the Comey case will result in a conviction? Here, play this clip.
How confident are you that the case will result in a conviction? If there's a prosecutor in this country that speaks about what a jury will do, they are not living up to their oaths. I know that a grand jury returned a 2-count indictment. I know that this case was investigated for the past year. I do not know what a jury of his peers will do at a trial that will come at some point in the future. All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, as this one account says as well. This is a problematic comment, given that DOJ rules about the certainty someone should have before charging a case. That he didn't say 95% certain is a confession, one of many he has made so far in this case. Take a look at this dude right here. Let's take a look at this dude right here. Matthew Petraka. This guy's the Trump. This guy's the Trump administration's lead prosecutor in the case against James Comey over the Instagram photos of seashells. His most substantial job. These are all such clowns. Like, dude, Iran and Russia and China are just laughing at our country, and our former allies are just absolutely horrified by us. This guy's most substantial job before leading this prosecution against James Comey was a seat on the Morris County, New Jersey Board of Taxation. And I think he worked for like a solo practitioner before. Let me just show you the full context of what Donald Trump said when he was in the Oval Office during that deranged Oval Office presser. where he said, people like Comey, they've created a tremendous danger for politicians and others. Here, just watch what he says over here and play this clip.
They don't use that term, son of a gun. They use another term. But that's a mob term for kill him. Yeah.
But do you really think your life is in danger?
Probably. I don't know. Based on what I'm seeing out there, yeah. The people like Comey have created tremendous danger, I think, for politicians and others. Comey is a dirty cop. He's a very dirty cop. He cheated on the elections. He tried to help Hillary Clinton, as you know. He dismissed a lot of things that he should have proceeded with. I wasn't involved, but he should have proceeded with. No, he's a dirty cop. He's a crooked man, yeah.
And then I also asked former federal prosecutor Dan Goldman. He was a prosecutor in the Southern District of New York with Todd Blanche. So they were colleagues. So I asked Goldman, what do you make of all of that? What do you make of this Comey indictment, Goldman? Here, play this clip.
This indictment is such a piece of crap. And in part because, as you indicated with 86, the term 86 has no clearly defined meaning. If it does, it would just be, in the restaurant industry to cancel an order, to 86 an order. It certainly is not commonly understood to be a request or a terminology for murder or for harm. That's where the problem begins, but it's certainly not where the problem ends. Because you would have to show, in order to prove this case, that James Comey intentionally seriously threatened Donald Trump's well-being by posting this photo. And as you know, you have to get 12 unanimous jurors beyond a reasonable doubt to be able to show intent. That's what really breaks down the difference between criminal and civil enforcement, is that intent. You really have to make it clear that you did intend to do something wrong. There's nothing remotely close to that.
There you have it, everybody. Hit subscribe. Help us get to 7 million subscribers. Thank you all so much for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.